The forgotten temple sun was setting on the red sands of planet Virix 9. The wind howled across the dry land as dust clouds rose into the air. Drivey Ethan Cole stood at the edge of a rocky cliff. Staring at the strange shapes below, his eyes lit up. "There it is," he said quietly, "the lost temple of the Shi'anari." His team of first scientists and explorers stood behind him. They had been searching for this place for weeks now. Half buried in the sand, they could see the top of a massive stone structure. Sharp lines and alien symbols covered its surface. "It doesn't look like much," one of the team members said. Ethan smiled. "You have no idea what we've just found." They climbed down carefully. The wind grew stronger, like it didn't want them there. The closer they got, the colder it became, even though the planet's surface was usually hot. Ethan felt something strange in his chest, but he pushed the feeling away. The entrance to the temple was blocked by a large stone door. It had no handles, no locks. Just a carved circle in the center. Ethan touched it. The circle lit up with a soft green light. The ground trembled slowly. The door opened with a deep, echoing sound. Inside, the air was dry and still. The light from their suits lit the walls, showing carvings of tall, thin beings with large eyes. Their hands were raised toward the sky, and in the center of every image stood a statue, small, stone, and strange. The team walked deeper into the temple. They reached a large room where a single idol stood on a stone platform. It was about 3 feet tall, with a round head, long arms, and a circle carved into its chest. Its eyes were closed. Ethan walked up to it and laughed. "This is it, the great alien god?" He tapped the idol on the head and said, "You don't look so powerful to me." His team chuckled nervously. One of them said, "Maybe don't mess with it, Ethan. We don't know what it does." "Come on," Ethan said. "It's just a rock." He pushed the idol lightly. It wobbled, then fell. It hit the ground with a loud crack. For a moment, there was silence. Then the lights in the room flickered. The walls seemed to shift slightly. A deep sound echoed from below the floor like a heartbeat. "What was that?" someone whispered. Before Ethan could answer, the ground shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. The floor under the idol cracked open just a little, revealing a glowing red light beneath. "We need to leave now," one of the team shouted. They rushed back through the temple. The walls now vibrating with every step. Outside, the sky had changed. The clouds moved in strange shapes. A low hum filled the air. That night, they camped not far from the temple. No one spoke much. Ethan sat alone, looking at the broken piece of the idol he had kept in his bag. "It's just stone," he whispered to himself, but deep down, he felt uneasy. At midnight, something happened. A scream tore through the air. The team ran out of their tents. One of the members, a young man named Liam, was missing. All they found was his sleeping bag and a strange mark on the ground. It looked like the circle from the idol's chest, glowing faintly. "Liam?" Ethan called out. There was no answer. Only the wind. Suddenly, a figure appeared on a hill nearby. It stood still, watching them. It had the same long arms and tall shape as the beings carved into the temple walls. But when they ran toward it, it vanished into the dark. Ethan couldn't sleep the rest of the night. He sat near the fire, holding the piece of the idol. Something had been awakened. And he knew it was because of him. In the morning, they tried to contact their ship in orbit. No signal. Their comms were dead. One of the team members looked at Ethan with fear. "What did you do?" Ethan didn't answer. He just stared at the temple in the distance. And deep underground, something ancient, something watching, had opened its eyes. The warning. 3 days had passed since Liam vanished near the forgotten temple on planet Virix 9. The remaining team members didn't speak much anymore. Their faces were pale, their eyes tired. They had searched the rocks, scanned the sand, called his name again and again. But there was no sign of Liam. It was like the planet had swallowed him whole. Ethan Cole sat alone at the edge of a cliff, staring at the broken idol in his hands. Even though it was just a piece of stone, it felt alive, cold, heavy in a way that didn't make sense. He had mocked it, touched it, broken it. Now something was watching them. That night, Ethan dreamt of eyes, thousands of eyes, floating in a black sky, staring down at him with quiet anger. Then a voice whispered, not in words, but in emotion, "You were warned." He woke up covered in sweat. The mark from the idol, the circle, had now appeared on his palm. Back on Earth, strange things began to happen. A satellite telescope in the Australian desert picked up a large object entering the solar system. It was not natural. It moved too fast, then suddenly slowed down. It changed direction, not following gravity, but choosing a path. It was coming toward Earth. NASA detected it next. They called it an unknown probe. It was at least 30 kilometers wide and shaped like a black diamond. No signal came from it. No heat, no radio waves. It was completely silent, dead, but it was moving with purpose. Then it stopped. For 2 full hours, it just floated outside the edge of the solar system, watching. On Virix 9, Ethan and his team prepared to leave. Their transport ship finally responded to their calls, But when they entered orbit, something strange happened. The ship's systems shut down for 3 minutes, completely black, no power, no control. When the lights came back, a single message was blinking on every screen. Written in every known human language, "He who mocks the sacred shall call the judgment." The time has begun. The crew stared at the message in silence. No one dared to speak. Back on Earth, governments began to panic. The object from space had now started moving again, fast, direct. And without a single sound, it passed by Mars in less than 10 minutes. When it reached Earth's orbit, the world's skies turned gray. The clouds formed strange shapes, circles, spirals, impossible patterns. Birds flew in the wrong directions. Animals screamed and ran without cause. People around the world began reporting the same dream, standing in front of a tall figure with long arms and a glowing circle in its chest. It would point at them and whisper, "Unworthy." Ethan was taken straight to a secret United Nations base. When he arrived on Earth, scientists, soldiers, and diplomats waited for him. "What did you do?" the American general asked. I touched a statue," Ethan said. "I mocked it. It was just a joke." "You opened something," said a scientist from India. "Something ancient, something older than we can imagine." "Do you know what it was?" asked another voice. A man in a long black coat stepped out of the shadows. He looked older than anyone in the room, but his eyes were sharp. "I've seen this before," the man said. "When I was a child, my grandfather told me stories from old books about the Shi'anari, the Watchers, a race that visited our world long ago. They planted idols on different planets, not as gods, not as weapons, as tests." "Tests?" Ethan asked. "Yes," the man said. "Tests of respect, of humility. If a species found the idol and honored it, they were left in peace. But if they mocked it," he looked at the screen showing the black object now hovering above the Earth, "they were judged." Suddenly, every screen in the room turned black. Then a voice began to speak. Deep, echoing, calm. It wasn't in any human language, but everyone understood it like it was being translated directly in their minds. "Your kind has been weighed. Your actions recorded. Your words echo through time. One among you broke the seal. Now you all must face the question, do you deserve to continue?" A countdown appeared on the screens, 72 hours. No one knew what would happen at 0. But the message was clear. Earth was being judged. Ethan sat in a small white room under the UN base, his hands shaking. The mark on his palm now pulsed with red light. It didn't burn, but it felt alive. Outside, people were panicking, crowds gathered, some prayed, others screamed, cities were on high alert. Military jets circled the skies, but the object didn't move. It just waited, like a judge staring at a guilty prisoner, letting silence build the fear. Ethan looked up at the ceiling and whispered to himself, "What have I done?" And somewhere far above the Earth, deep inside the dark shape floating in orbit, something opened its eyes. The first strike for 71 hours, the world held its breath. Cities were quiet, skies were gray. And the strange black object still floating above Earth didn't move, it just hung there, like a silent shadow in space, too large to forget and too still to ignore. People watched the countdown on screens everywhere. 65-3. Some believed it was a trick, others said it was a warning. But deep down, everyone knew this wasn't just science fiction anymore. This was real. And the world was not ready. In a secret underground command center in Switzerland, Drivey Ethan Cole sat across from 5 world leaders. His hands were cuffed. The glowing red circle on his palm pulsed like a heartbeat. "You brought this," said the Russian official. "You broke their law." "I didn't know," Ethan said. "It was just a statue." "You mocked it," interrupted the general from China. "And now we all pay the price." Suddenly, the lights flickered. The room shook slightly. Alarms began to sound. "Report," shouted the American general. A soldier ran in, pale and breathless. "Sir, it's moving, in orbit." The black object tilted slowly, like it had finally made a decision. Then a part of its surface opened. Inside, nothing could be seen, only deep darkness. But from that darkness, a long, thin beam of light extended toward the Earth. The beam didn't glow, it didn't burn, it simply pointed. "Targeting something," whispered a technician. Double quotes. "Where?" someone asked. "It's heading toward New Sydney, Australia." Within seconds, every camera and satellite tried to focus on the area, but before anyone could react, it happened. The first strike, a quiet flash, no fire, no sound, just light and then silence. In less than a second, the entire city was gone, not destroyed, not exploded, just erased. Buildings, cars, people, Earth like they had been wiped clean from the map. Ethan stood up in shock. No, this can't be." But the screens confirmed it. New Sydney was gone. 20 million lives vanished. Across the globe, panic erupted. Crowds flooded streets. People screamed, others dropped to their knees and cried. Every country activated emergency protocols. Armies were mobilized. Bunkers were opened. Jets filled the skies. And above them all, the black object remained calm, quiet, watching. It sent no demands, gave no reasons. It didn't need to. The message was clear: this was the price of disrespect. In Washington, a group of scientists and historians searched ancient alien records. One man, a language expert named Dr. Rami Das, found something buried in old deep space logs. This isn't the first time, he whispered. What do you mean? Asked a colleague. This happened before, not on Earth, but on another planet. Over 50,000 years ago. They found the idol, mocked it, and then they were erased, every trace of them. Only a warning was left behind in ruins, the same message. He showed them a translation on his tablet. Those who laugh at what they do not understand will face the silence of judgment. Back in the UN command room, Ethan's mark began to glow brighter. The lines started to shift like a symbol forming. What is happening to me? Ethan asked, terrified. An AI specialist scanned his hand. The mark is not just glowing, it's receiving, it's like a key. Suddenly, Ethan's vision blurred, everything around him faded. He stood in total darkness. Then a figure appeared before him, tall, thin, eyes glowing white, no face, no voice. Yet Ethan could feel its thoughts inside his head. You are the one who touched the sacred, you must answer for your kind. Who are you? Ethan whispered. We are the Shi'anari, we are the Watchers, the keepers of balance. Your species has failed the first test, but a final trial remains. What trial? Your world must speak, not through weapons, not through lies, but through one voice, your voice. Ethan fell to his knees. What do I have to do? Stand before judgment, speak for your kind, and prove that humans deserve to continue. And then the voice vanished. He woke up on the floor of the UN chamber. His team surrounded him. Ethan, are you okay? We've been trying to wake you for 5 minutes, someone said. Ethan looked around, breathless. They spoke to me. Who? The Shi'anari, the ones in the ship. They said we have one chance left. A new countdown appeared on every screen in the world, 24 hours. But this time, no one knew what would happen when it ended. One more attack, or something worse. And above the clouds, high in orbit, the ship's black shell began to crack open. Inside, something bright moved, huge, powerful, alive. The first strike had been silent. The next one might not be. Voices of the past Earth stood on the edge of silence. 4 hours remained on the countdown. After the first strike erased New Sydney, the world had changed. Faith turned into fear. Science turned into prayer. Nations that were enemies just days ago now worked together, trying to understand the thing above them, the ancient alien ship, the judge. The ship had stopped speaking. It didn't answer calls. It didn't send another warning. It just waited. And in that waiting, fear grew like a storm. Drives Ethan Cole sat alone in a cold white room, deep under the United Nations headquarters. Cameras watched him. Soldiers stood outside the door. He was no longer a scientist. He was a symbol, the man who mocked the idol and called judgment upon the earth. He stared at his hand. The red glowing mark had now changed. It was no longer just a circle. Lines had appeared around it like a map, or a code. A young researcher named Lara entered the room, holding a tablet. Ethan, we found something, she said, voice shaking. In the Antarctica dig archives, a video. It's old, very old. She showed him a recording. It was blurry, black and white, and strange. An excavation team years ago had found ruins buried under ice, deep, too deep for anything man-made. The camera shook as the team uncovered stone walls with the same symbols as the Shi'anari temple on Virix 9. In the center was a slab. Etched into it was a figure, tall, alien, arms outstretched. And beneath it, in rough English letters carved into ice-cracked stone, they came once. They judged, they spared one tribe, not because we were good, but because we listened. Ethan leaned closer. This was here, on Earth. Lara nodded. The Shi'anari have visited us before. Long before history, the survivors buried the memory. Only a few stories remained in myths, in religion, in strange symbols. She paused, and now, they've returned, in a mountain archive in Tibet. Monks uncovered ancient scrolls. They showed the same idol that Ethan had broken. Long arms, circle on the chest, glowing eyes, but in these scrolls, the idol floated in the sky, surrounded by people bowing below. One scroll showed a group of men laughing, then vanishing into smoke. Another showed a single figure standing before the idol, offering his hand. The final image was a bright tree growing from stone, its roots wrapping around the earth. Across the world, strange things began to happen. People with dreams of fire now heard whispers in their sleep. A child in Peru drew a perfect image of the alien ship, though she'd never seen it. In a forest in Russia, a group of hunters disappeared without trace, only a glowing circle left behind in the snow. Something was waking. Something older than mankind. Back in Geneva, Ethan was taken into a new room. It was circular, lined with alien metal. In the center was a tall, black chair like a throne. but made of light. This is from Project Silence, Lara told him. We found it in orbit years ago, part of an old Shianari probe. It responds to your mark, me, Ethan asked. You're linked now. They've chosen you, like it or not. He stepped forward, heart pounding. The chair opened. He sat. Instantly. His mind was pulled from his body. He flew through darkness, through stars, through time. Memories not his own flooded his mind. Galaxies dying, civilizations rising and falling, planets burning, and then a voice. Deep, ancient, calm. We watched your kind. We gave you fire. We gave you chance. You forgot us. You made war. You poisoned water. You built idols of greed and laughed at ours, but still some of you listened. Images appeared, humans helping one another, building, protecting, loving. One man sharing food, a woman saving a child, a soldier refusing to kill. Small things. Human things. The voice continued. The test was not of strength, it was of heart. You have one voice now, one choice. Speak truth or fall into silence. Ethan woke up gasping, his hands shook. The mark now pulsed like a heartbeat in his skin. He stood up. I saw them, I saw everything. They're not just judges, they're teachers. They gave us warnings, again and again, and we never listened. What do they want now? Someone asked. Not weapons, Ethan said, not power. They want to see if we've learned anything, if we're ready to grow, or if we deserve to vanish. So, what do we do? Ethan looked at the screen. The countdown now showed 12 hours 4 minutes and 23 seconds. He swallowed hard. We prepare for the trial. Outside, the skies turned darker. Above the earth, the alien ship began to shift. Metal unfolded like petals. Light poured out, not fire, but memory. Thousands of symbols danced in the air, languages long dead. At the center of the ship, something massive began to form. A doorway, and through that doorway, something stepped out. Tall, silent, glowing with ancient power. The judge had arrived, and soon the world would have to speak. The trial begins. Sky split open. From the center of the alien ship, a ship so large it cast shadows over entire countries. A shape descended slowly. It did not fly, it glided. Like it was not moving through space, but through thought itself. People everywhere stopped and looked up. In the middle of Africa, in the deserts of China, in the cold forests of Canada, eyes turned to the sky as the figure came closer to Earth. It had no wings, no engines, no weapons. But still, it was the most terrifying thing humanity had ever seen. Ethan Cole stood on a platform built overnight on an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It was neutral ground, surrounded by naval ships from every nation, but none of them dared to move. Beside Ethan stood generals, leaders, scientists, and a single child, the daughter of a peacekeeper, brought for reasons no one understood. She said the glowing voice in her dreams told her to come. And then the air shimmered. The figure appeared. It didn't walk. It floated just inches above the ground, 10 feet tall. Its body was silver and black, with smooth skin that looked like metal and light at the same time. Its face was hidden beneath a mask. No mouth, no eyes, just a glowing circle. The same shape as the idol Ethan had destroyed. A voice echoed, not through ears, but through minds. You have awakened the old promise. The time of balance has come. One voice shall face the trial. One voice shall decide your future. The circle on Ethan's hand began to burn. Me, he whispered. They want me. 3 trials. One for truth, one for courage, one for sacrifice. Pass and live. Fail and fall. The world watched as Ethan stepped forward. The figure extended its arm. A light surrounded Ethan, and in a blink he was gone. When Ethan opened his eyes, he stood in a vast, dark space. There was no ground, no sky. Only memory. Before him appeared a scene from his past, his own laboratory, years ago. He watched himself yelling at his assistant, "We publish my name first. I found the idol, not you." His younger self was proud, cold, selfish. Then another scene. His childhood, his brother crying while Ethan turned away. Then a war zone. A child trapped under rubble. Ethan running not to help but to save himself. The voice returned. First trial, truth, not the truth you tell the world, the truth you hide from yourself. Ethan dropped to his knees. I was wrong, he whispered. I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be remembered. I mocked something I didn't understand because I was afraid of being small. Speak it louder. Let them hear. Ethan stood. I thought I was great, but I was just afraid. I made others small so I could feel big. I broke the idol because I didn't want to face the truth, that I didn't understand the universe at all. There was silence. Then, the circle on his hand turned white. First trial passed. He blinked again. Now he stood on the edge of a collapsing building. Screams echoed below. Fire burned. A figure hung from a broken beam. Someone crying for help. Courage, Ethan said. This is the second. The voice echoed again. Will you risk pain for someone else? Without thinking, Ethan ran toward the edge, climbed down the rubble, and reached for the hand. Fire burned his back. Smoke filled his lungs. The beam cracked beneath his weight. He held on. "I won't let you fall," he shouted. He pulled the figure up only to realize it was himself. Not young, not old, him, exactly as he was. He had saved himself by saving another. The light returned, second trial passed, now the space around him went cold. He stood in a white room. A door appeared, behind it he knew someone he loved would be inside. The voice returned. Third trial, sacrifice. One must be lost, for many to live, you must choose. The door opened. Inside sat Lara, the researcher who had helped him. She looked at him, confused. "Ethan." She whispered. He stepped inside. "If she dies, the judgment ends, the ship will leave, Earth will be spared, or you may choose yourself. But if you do, the trial remains incomplete, and the judgment continues." Ethan fell to the floor. "Why her?" he cried. No answer. Lara walked toward him. "You can't do this, not again, not like before." He stood, tears in his eyes. "I mocked something sacred, but this is not a test of sacrifice, it's a test of mercy." He turned toward the voice. "I choose no one, I will not play this game, I will not kill to save. If we must fall, let it be, but not by my hand." There was silence, long and deep. Then the voice spoke. Third trial, understood. Ethan was returned to the island. The judge stood silent. Then the glowing circle on its chest turned green. "You are not pure, but you are capable. Not perfect, but possible. The trial is complete." The ship in the sky pulsed once. Then slowly, it began to close. The doorway vanished. The darkness faded, and then, as quietly as it came, the ship began to rise. Higher, slower, until it disappeared beyond the clouds. The countdown stopped. The world exhaled. And in the center of the platform where the judge once stood, something was left behind. A seed. It shimmered with light. It pulsed like life. Ethan picked it up. And for the first time since the day he mocked the idol, he smiled. Judgment of the mind. The sky was quiet. The alien ship had left orbit, but it hadn't left the solar system. It now floated just beyond the moon, watching, waiting. It had judged. But the judgment was not over. Drives. Ethan Cole held the glowing seed left behind by the Shianari. It sat in a glass chamber in a protected base. Scientists studied it, scanned it, whispered around it, but it remained a mystery. Nothing could pierce it, nothing could read it. Until it spoke, not with sound, but with thought. Late one night, while alone in the chamber, Ethan felt it a tug inside his mind. His hands began to shake. The seed glowed. Then it pulled him in. He fell, not physically, but mentally, through layers of time, space, and memory. He landed in a void, endless, dark, alive. Around him, floating in the air, were memories, but not his. They were the memories of all humanity. Wars, genocides, betrayals, fear, greed, cruelty. Screams that echoed from the past. Children crying, forests burning, bombs falling, and then silence. Ethan turned slowly. A tall figure stood behind him. But this was no alien. It was himself, twisted, older, with eyes empty of hope. "What is this?" Ethan asked. "This," said the figure, "is the final test. The Shianari saw your truth, your courage, your sacrifice. But that was you. This is humanity." Images flashed across the void. Slave ships crossing oceans. Mushroom clouds rising over cities. Animals hunted to extinction. Oceans turned black with oil. Men turning on each other for color, for power, for land. "This is what they see," said the dark Ethan. "This is what they fear." Ethan fell to his knees. "But we've also created," he said. "We've loved, we've healed, we've built music, poetry, science, medicine. And yet," the figure said coldly, "you still kill for flags, you still lie for power. You still laugh at truth." A new vision appeared, a meeting room filled with world leaders. One by one, they stood, each promising peace. But under the table, their hands crossed fingers. Hidden documents signed, weapons built in secret, lies behind smiles. "How can they trust you?" said the voice. "If you don't trust each other." Ethan stood, trembling. "Because we're not finished," he whispered. "We're not perfect, we're not clean, but we are trying." Every great change started with failure. Every moment of peace came after pain. The darkness around him pulsed. "Say it louder." "We are flawed, yes, but we have the power to grow. We remember our crimes so we don't repeat them. We teach history not to celebrate war but to learn from it. You judge us by our darkness, but even your ship leaves shadows." A light began to grow from his chest. The circle burned again, but this time golden. "You face not only their judgment," said the voice, "but your own. Do you believe humanity deserves to continue?" Ethan closed his eyes. He thought of Liam, lost on VI Rex-9. He thought of Lara, who believed in him. He thought of the seed, pulsing with possibility, and he said, clearly, yes. Suddenly, the void exploded in light. Ethan fell backward through clouds of memory, through storms of thought, through voices shouting in every language, and landed, gasping, in the seed chamber. Alarms were blaring. The seed was no longer silent. It was alive. It floated into the air, spun slowly, and cracked. Open. Inside was a sphere of pure light. It hovered above the floor and began to grow, projecting symbols into the air, spinning language, history, and knowledge. But it also projected humanity. Images of love, sacrifice, kindness. A man carrying his enemy out of a fire, a woman feeding strangers during a famine. A child sharing food with a dying bird. These weren't headlines. They weren't famous. They were real. And the Shi'Anari saw it all. The alien ship, still beyond the moon, began to shift again. A signal was received, different from before. Not a warning, not a countdown. A request. A doorway opened. One final time. Ethan was taken aboard. This time, not as a prisoner, not as a representative, but as a witness. He entered a chamber filled with stars. The Shi'Anari stood before him, not one, but many. Their shapes shifted like smoke and light, old, eternal. You have passed the test of the mind. You have seen what we feared and faced it, not by hiding, but by owning it. You are not perfect, but you are learning. You are not finished, but you are becoming. We will not destroy. Use instead, we will watch. And then they gave him a gift. Not technology. Not weapons, but knowledge. One word. Spoken in every tongue. Heard by every ear on earth. Grow. Ethan returned. The seed, now planted in the heart of the earth, grew overnight into a tree of light. It pulsed with life. Its roots spread deep, carrying something new across the world. Not just data, but understanding. And from that moment on, the world began to change. Slowly. But forever. Asterisk. Final choice. The tree of light grew where no tree should grow. It stood in the middle of the scorched zone, ground zero of the alien ship's first strike. Where New Sydney once existed, nothing had survived there. Not a leaf, not a shadow, but now something was alive. The tree glowed in pulses, soft, golden light that shimmered across the clouds like waves. It didn't cast heat. It didn't grow leaves. It hummed softly, as if breathing. The world gathered. Pilgrims. Scientists, politicians, children. All drawn to the tree like it was calling them. Because, in a way, it was. Drives. Ethan Cole stood before the tree, his hand marked by the final symbol, no longer a circle, but a spiral, glowing blue. He hadn't slept in 3 days. Not since he returned from the Shi'Anari ship. His face was thinner, his eyes deeper inside. His mind still echoed the voice he had heard there. The seed we leave is not salvation. It is a question. Your final test does not come from us, it comes from you. He hadn't told anyone. Not yet, because he knew the world wasn't ready. In Geneva, the United Nations held an emergency session. Tension filled the air like fog. Half the room believed the Shi'Anari had given humanity a gift, hope, wisdom, a second chance. The other half believed something else entirely, that the tree was a trap, a device, a test waiting to be failed. They feared what it could become if it fell into the wrong hands. What if it spreads? One leader asked. What if it controls thought? Another warned. What if it changes us? And in the middle of them stood a single choice: activate the tree or destroy it. Ethan watched from afar as military units surrounded the site. The tree had grown taller. Its roots had entered the ground and around it. The land began to heal. Dead soil became soft, air cleared, insects returned, birds circled above. Not in fear. In song. But still guns pointed toward it, just in case. Then came the moment. The Shi'Anari signal returned, not loud, not bright. Just a single message sent to every screen, device, and satellite on Earth. In the Shi'Anari language, translated instantly in human minds. Final choice: press the stone at the heart of the tree, and we will give you what you seek: unity, energy, healing. Or press nothing, walk away, and we will never return. If you destroy it, we will not stop you, but know this: we will never offer again. The world was split. Activating it might save the planet, or doom it. Destroying it might protect free will, or end hope forever. And so the world turned again to Ethan Cole. The man who had broken the idol. The man who had passed the trials. The only human the Shi'Anari would listen to. He walked to the tree, alone. As he reached the base, the roots parted gently for him. In the center of the trunk, there was a stone, smooth, white, silent. One press, one touch, one decision. He reached toward it and stopped. Behind him, he saw two groups watching. To his left, children, families, scientists, believers. To his right, soldiers, politicians, men with cold eyes and whispered fears. What if we lose control? One general shouted. What if it takes over minds? What if it saves us? Whispered a little girl. Ethan stood between them, silent. Then he did something unexpected. He turned to the crowd. And spoke. This is not a button. It's a mirror. They're not giving us power. They're asking us who we are. Not who we pretend to be on paper or in speeches, but who we are when no one's watching. This tree, it can't save us if we still choose war. It can't feed us if we let the greedy hoard it. It can't heal if we don't want to be healed. He looked at both sides. This isn't about the Shi'anari anymore. They've seen enough. Now we have to look at ourselves. He paused. The final choice is not whether we press this stone. The final choice is how we live after we do. He pressed his hand to the stone. The world held its breath. The light did not explode. It flowed. Gentle, soft, clean. The roots of the tree pulsed once. Then again. Then the tree disappeared. Vanished into particles. But the earth shook, not in destruction, in awakening. Within days, plants began to grow in poisoned soil. Oceans cleared by inches. Diseases began to fade, not by miracle but by unlocking new understanding of biology, energy, thought. People began dreaming together. Shared memories, shared emotions. Empathy not forced, but open. It was not controlled. It was connection. A gift, but also a responsibility. Because now humans could feel each other's pain. And they could no longer pretend not to care. Years passed, not perfect years, but better ones. Wars ended not all at once, but one by one. Leaders changed, truth became harder to ignore, greed harder to justify. Humanity still struggled, but it began to walk forward. Together. One night, Ethan stood under the stars. The sky was quiet, but he knew they were still watching, not as gods, not as masters. But as witnesses. He smiled. We're not perfect, he whispered, but we're trying. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, in a place older than time's, a voice answered, one last time, then you are worth saving.